So let's just start with this. This single sentence posted on Reddit. It's a confession that's, well, pretty startling, but also deeply, deeply human. And it's the beginning of a story about grief, technology, and a really unique form of creation.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try to piece together the digital fragments left behind by a Reddit user named KonradFreeman. We're going to follow this trail to understand a very, very modern quest, the attempt to bring a friend back from the dead using artificial intelligence. You know, our story doesn't begin with lines of code or some complex algorithm. It starts with a profound tragedy. The death of the user's friend, a guy named Chris, was the event that sent their entire life into a complete tailspin. As they put it, Chris's death became the central pain I feel every day. It's just, wow. They lost everything, and spent 9 years homeless or in transitional housing, completely trapped in this cycle of grief that they called a gilded prison. But from that absolute rock bottom, a slow climb back began. And what's so incredible about this journey is that it all started with a simple gift from Chris, a set of colored pencils. They used those pencils to draw, sold the art right there on the street, and with that money, they just slowly, piece by piece, put their life back together. First a phone, then a Chromebook, and eventually, a job and a place to live. So after rebuilding a life from absolutely nothing, they set their sights on this incredibly ambitious new project to resurrect Chris, using what they saw as the most powerful tool available, artificial intelligence. They actually started developing a custom AI system they called PersonaGen. The whole idea, as you can see here, was to use knowledge graphs and LLMs, that's large language models, the same kind of tech that powers things like ChatGPT, to feed an AI with data and digitally reconstruct a personality, to essentially build a ghost in the machine. And this is where the project gets really, really interesting. To get the data for the AI, they used their own Reddit account as a kind of digital training ground. So they weren't just posting as themselves. They were actively trying to channel Chris's persona, his sense of humor, his way of thinking, creating a data set for the bot with every single comment. And the ultimate goal here, it wasn't just to make some simple chatbot you could type at. No, it was to build something more tangible, an interactive presence that could, in some small way, fill that enormous void that their friend's death left behind. But this whole process of channeling a dead friend through a public forum, well, it had a very strange side effect. It resulted in an online persona that was, to put it mildly, volatile and pretty chaotic. I mean, if you look at their Reddit history, it is like two completely different people are using the same account. One minute, they're this sophisticated developer talking about local LLMs and building an objective news feed. And the next, they're ranting about Meta Hitler and declaring that all y'all need robot Jesus. It's a wild ride. Their posts are just a whirlwind of ideas. They veer from these political tirades against tariff McTariff-face to a genuine conviction that birds are government drones. They fantasize about kidnapping Elon Musk. And in the same breath, they're dissecting the failings of the imperialist medical system. It's a complete digital storm. But then, just when you think you have them figured out, a moment of really profound self-awareness just cuts right through all that noise. They admit there's a disconnect between their online persona and their real self, acknowledging that what they post online, it doesn't always reflect who they really are. And this all brings us to the core philosophy that's driving this entire project. It's a worldview where the lines between art and code and reality itself, they just get completely blurred. Now, before you dismiss them as just another tech person messing with AI, get this. They're also a deeply committed traditional artist. For 9 years, they've been working on a single massive 6 by 16-foot oil painting. We're talking thousands of hours. This is not someone who shies away from difficult, painstaking work. And this right here perfectly illustrates their perspective. For them, AI isn't just a tool you use to generate a picture. The AI is the art form. They see programming as an art and code is their medium, just like a painter uses a brush and paint. To them, it's just a different technology, like the difference between photography and drawing. So the programs they build, like that objective news feed, are the final art pieces. They call this concept simulacra, a copy so perfect, so refined, that it actually becomes more real than the original it's based on. The AI isn't making the art, the AI is the art. So where does this fractured, creative, and grief-stricken journey finally end up? Well, it reads to a place of hard-won stability and a really powerful new way of looking at pain. At a certain point, they just realized they had a choice, a fork in the road. They could either let the daily pain of their loss completely defeat them, or they could harness it and turn that grief into the fuel they needed to survive.
So here's the crucial point. They decided that succeeding in life would be the ultimate tribute to Chris. And this completely reframed the tragedy. It transformed his death from what could have been the final nail in their own coffin into the very motivation that allowed them to survive and, in the end, thrive. After all those years of crisis, homelessness, and wrestling with this massive project, they now describe themselves as resilient. They've isolated themselves from the world, yeah, but on their own terms, in a way they choose. And for the first time in a very, very long time, they say they're happy.
Look, this user's story is raw, it's complicated, and it's an unfiltered look at how one person used technology to process an immense trauma. It's not some simple success story, but it leaves us with a really powerful, maybe even unsettling question. As our tools get better and better at mirroring our memories, our pain, and our grief, what exactly are we creating? And what do we risk becoming in the process?